Hey everyone, did you know that millions of people around the world are living with depression? And it just doesn't like respond to conventional treatments.
It's true. It's a huge challenge.
Huge. And for those individuals, finding effective relief, it can feel impossible.
Yeah.
But what if we told you there's a drug out there that might change the game entirely? A drug that could lift potentially the fog of severe depression in a matter of hours.
It sounds, almost too good to be true, right? But that's exactly the promise that ketamine seems to hold.
It
We're
doesn't.
talking about a drug best known as an anesthetic,
Right.
even sometimes used as a party drug.
Wow.
And now it's being investigated for its potential to revolutionize how we treat some of the most persistent cases of depression.
It's a wild ride.
Mm.
From the battlefield to the clinic. Seriously, when you hear horse tranquilizer, you don't usually think, oh, that might help with my mental health.
No, not typical.
Not the usual medical breakthrough story.
Definitely not your typical story, no. But ketamine has a fascinating history.
Okay.
It was first synthesized back in 1962 as a shorter-acting alternative to PCP.
Oh, wow.
And early on, it was primarily used as an animal anesthetic.
Hence the horse tranquilizer label.
Exactly, that's where we get that label from. But during the Vietnam War, things started to change. It started being used as a battlefield anesthetic for soldiers, and gradually researchers, they started to uncover its potential applications in human medicine.
So how does a drug that essentially puts you to sleep end up being explored as a treatment for something as complex as depression?
Right.
What's the connection?
That's the million-dollar question. And to be honest, we're still kind of unraveling the mysteries of how ketamine works its magic in the brain.
Yeah.
What we do know is that it acts on these things called NMDA receptors.
All right.
Think of them like specialized locks on brain cells that play a crucial role in learning, memory, and how our brains process information.
Okay, so it's tinkering with some pretty important machinery up there.
Yeah, you could say that.
But how does that translate into alleviating depression?
Well, that's the part researchers are still trying to pinpoint. It's like we have a key that fits the lock, but we're not entirely sure how turning that key is impacting the whole system.
Right, right.
One theory is that it might have to do with boosting a substance called GABA in the brain,
Okay.
which acts like a calming agent for nerve activity.
So it's kind of like chilling things out a bit.
Exactly. Exactly. Others believe ketamine might be working its magic by reducing inflammation in the brain, which has been increasingly linked to depression in recent years.
So it could be a multi-pronged attack on depression.
That's a great way to put it. It's like ketamine is the Swiss Army knife of potential mechanisms, you know?
Wow.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Ketamine also seems to increase something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF for short.
BBNF, that's a mouthful.
I know, it's a bit of a tongue twister,
It is.
but it plays a vital role. Think of BDNF as a growth factor for your brain cells,
Okay.
like a fertilizer that helps them stay healthy and form new connections.
Well, I like that analogy.
And some studies suggest that ketamine might actually be promoting the growth and survival of those brain cells, potentially even helping to repair damage caused by chronic stress.
Wow. So it's not just masking the symptoms. It might be addressing some of the underlying issues in the brain.
You got it.
That's pretty incredible.
It is, and it helps explain why researchers are so excited about ketamine's potential. In fact, some studies have shown that ketamine therapy can lead to a 70% reduction in suicidal thoughts within 24 hours for some patients.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a game changer.
It really is, especially for those who haven't found relief through other means.
That kind of rapid response could be life-saving.
Absolutely. But it's important to distinguish between the way ketamine is used as an anesthetic versus how it's being explored for depression treatment.
Okay, so we're not talking about like knocking someone out cold here.
No, not at all. When we're talking about ketamine for depression, we're talking about carefully controlled, much lower doses, typically administered intravenously in a clinical setting under close medical supervision.
Safety first, always.
Absolutely, 100%. It's about finding that sweet spot where we can harness its therapeutic potential while minimizing any risks.
Right.
But the bottom line is this. Ketamine seems to work differently, and for some people, much faster than traditional antidepressants, particularly for those who haven't had success with other treatments.
And that's a big deal because when traditional antidepressants haven't worked, hope can start to feel, pretty thin.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like with any new treatment, especially one that acts on the brain, I know there are going to be questions about side effects.
Of course, and it's important to be upfront about those. In a controlled medical setting, ketamine is generally considered safe.
Okay.
But there are some temporary side effects people might experience.
Okay.
Some of the most common ones include things like feeling a bit disoriented or spacey,
Okay.
having some blurred vision,
Right.
or just feeling a little out of sorts for a bit.
Okay. So nothing too crazy.
No, generally speaking, these side effects are short-lived and manageable.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know some people worry about ketamine's reputation as, a street drug.
Right.
Are addiction and abuse legitimate concerns? Should we be talking about that?
Absolutely. Those are definitely valid concerns, and we can't just sweep them under the rug. Ketamine, like any drug that affects your mood, has the potential for misuse if it's not used responsibly and under proper medical supervision.
So it really emphasizes how important that medical supervision is.
It's critical, yeah, to approach its use with caution and to have those open conversations about the risks and benefits.
So it's about carefully weighing those factors, especially for people who might be more vulnerable to addiction.
You got it. It's about finding the right treatment approach for each individual.
Right.
And ketamine certainly won't be the right fit for everyone.
Okay.
But for those who haven't found relief elsewhere and for whom the potential benefits outweigh the risks, it could be, truly life-changing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really quite something.
It's like having another tool in the toolbox, so to speak, for tackling treatment-resistant depression. Speaking of different tools, I'm curious how ketamine compares to other treatments for severe cases, like ECT or TMS.
Oh, that's a great question, and it's something researchers are really actively investigating. You see, when we look at electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT, which is often used as a last resort for severe depression,
Right.
studies suggest that ketamine might be just as effective in treating those really tough cases.
Okay, so it could be a gentler alternative to ECT
Potentially, yeah.
without the potential side effects like memory issues?
That's the hope. There's some early evidence to support that idea.
Oh.
And when it comes to transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS, there's even more interesting research emerging. It seems like ketamine's pain-relieving properties might actually allow patients to handle stronger TMS sessions,
Wow.
potentially making the treatment even more effective.
So they could work together, almost like a 1-2 punch.
That's what some studies are hinting at, yeah. There was one study where some patients who received both ketamine and TMS experienced relief from their depression for up to 2 years.
2 years. Now, that's what I call a lasting impact. But even with those promising results, I imagine access to ketamine therapy is still a major hurdle for a lot of people.
You're absolutely right. Unfortunately, access and affordability remain significant challenges. In the U.S., ketamine is FDA approved for use as an anesthetic,
Right.
but its use for mental health conditions like depression is considered off-label.
Off-label meaning it's not officially approved for that specific use.
Precisely. Doctors can legally prescribe it for depression,
Okay.
but because it doesn't have that official FDA stamp of approval for this purpose, many insurance companies won't cover the cost of treatment.
Oh, I see.
And ketamine therapy can be pretty expensive out of pocket.
Right. That makes sense, but it creates a real barrier for people who desperately need this kind of treatment.
It does, and it highlights a critical issue of equity in healthcare, right? It
Yeah.
shouldn't matter what your zip code is or what kind of insurance you have.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves access to potentially life-changing treatments.
I couldn't agree more.
Hmm.
So what does the future hold for ketamine's role in treating depression? Do you think it will eventually become more widely available and accepted? So what does the future hold for ketamine's role in treating depression?
Mm.
Do you think it will eventually become more widely available and accepted?
That is the million-dollar question.
Really is.
Will it remain a treatment of last resort,
Right.
reserved only for the most severe cases that haven't responded to anything else? Or could we be on the verge of a paradigm shift in mental health care where ketamine plays a much larger role?
It feels like we're at a crossroads.
We are, and it's hard to say for sure which path we'll end up taking.
Right.
There's still so much we need to learn
Yeah,
about its long-term effects,
of course.
the best ways to use it for
Yeah.
different people and different conditions,
Yeah.
and how to make it accessible
Right.
and affordable
For everyone.
for everyone who could benefit. Yeah.
Right, right.
Big question marks.
Yeah, it sounds like research is going to be key in shaping the future of ketamine therapy.
Absolutely. We need more large-scale, long-term studies to really get a handle on its full potential.
Okay.
And to develop clear guidelines for its use.
Yeah.
But despite the challenges, I'm incredibly hopeful.
Okay.
The research we've seen so far has been nothing short of, remarkable.
Yeah.
And I believe we're on the cusp of a real transformation in how we approach mental health treatment.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from ketamine's surprising history to its potential for, transforming the lives of people who are struggling with severe depression.
Sure.
We've talked about the science behind how it might work, the challenges of relapse, the challenges of access, and the importance of responsible use.
It's true. And even with all that, we've only just scratched the surface.
Right, exactly.
But hopefully, hopefully you now have a much better understanding
Yeah.
of both the incredible promise
Right.
and the complexities surrounding ketamine therapy.
Yes. And that's what these deep dives are all about. It's
Yeah.
about giving you the information that you need to,
Mhm.
navigate these complex topics and to form your own informed opinions.
It's so important.
It's not.
Knowledge is power, after all.
Couldn't agree more. As we wrap up our deep dive into the world of ketamine, I want to leave you with this thought. If you or someone you know is struggling with depression, please don't give up hope.
Please don't.
There are options available.
There are.
And the field of mental health treatment is constantly evolving.
It is, and never underestimate the power of research, open dialogue, and continued exploration to drive progress in this critical area.
Beautifully said. That's a wrap on today's episode.
It is a good one.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world around you.